Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest EVs and Beyond live stream. Sorry, crossing over between titles there. Thank you again for coming along and talking to us. Couple of weeks off there, but I didn't leave you hanging. I don't know if you noticed, but every Tuesday if there wasn't a live stream, there was a video premiere. We've just had so much on lately. We've had a few trips in play and field days and a few other things. It's just been really busy in the EV space. So welcome back, and we can summarize, I think, a little bit of the stuff that's been going along in the last few weeks. So see where the room is slowly filling up. If you are here for the first time, welcome. If not, well, you know what to do. Ask lots of comments, make lots of pithy comments and questions in whatever chat function you've got next to wherever you're watching, be that on the live stream on YouTube, which is my preferred place to watch, on Facebook, which is the laziest place to watch, or LinkedIn, which is, I guess, the businessy place to watch. I don't know. Oh, look, we've got a Facebook like there just after I go and trash Facebook. Now, Facebook's wonderful, but I think the video quality is best on YouTube, and I'm a bit of a... I like my video quality if I can get it right. Hopefully it is looking okay from there. So yeah, anyway, thanks for joining us. Now, I did see someone posted up on the BYD page. Not sure if there's any BYD specific stuff this week. There isn't. I don't have any groundbreaking information for you like I haven't had in some previous weeks. Other than we probably will quickly touch on the Tachyon that we saw when we were down at Field Days. So let's we'll talk a little bit about that. But otherwise, it's a pretty run-of-the-mill straight event tonight. So I'm going to bring in my guests. And firstly, from sunny, I'm not sure, because it's I'm not there. It's a bit grey up here where I am. Telpo, I'm going to bring in Steve from Drive EV. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Hey, Richard. How's it going? You can see in the background that it's pretty grey, but it's yeah. It's warm enough. We're not freezing. I'm not wearing a jacket and a woolly hat, so.
and how have you been? I mean, look, generally the used car market seems not wonderful at the moment, but is the dedicated EV side trucking along okay?
I mean, we're trucking along okay. We're certainly not flying. I think everyone's sort of a little bit quieter, and I think especially with coming into Christmas. But I mean, we sort of have our, I guess, specific sort of market with just selling 100% electric vehicles. So yeah, we've always got that customer base that keeps us ticking along, but a little bit quieter than usual.
Yeah. Oh, all good. Well, look, your talents are well known in regards to driving all around the country delivering electric vehicles, and that's going to come into play later on tonight as we start talking about EV road trips and some tips and some ideas and some theories about what you can do to make those a little smoother. You got any road trips planned for the summer?
Well, I mean, you might notice that my face is a bit red. I've actually just come back from Port Jackson, so last night. I am very passionate about EV road trips. So work-wise, we've just got an Auckland trip coming up and a few sort of nothing too exciting. No, the far north trips and that sort of thing. But we'll be hitting the road and for sure and doing some fun stuff.
Awesome. Now, we're going to bring in our second guest for tonight, and he's a man that probably does more road trip miles than I think either of us, and I think we're pretty high on the road trip mile stakes, and that is the Tesla tow bar king, Mark Buckingham. Thanks for joining us, Mark.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Live from Studio Model Y?
Yes, that's me. Yep, just nearly at 20,000 K, not quite.
And whereabouts in the country is Studio Model Y tonight?
Oh, well, actually, I'm in my driveway, but I'm in the studio because I've got a couple of lads making a whole lot of noise working on cars. Too noisy in there.
As in fitting tow bars to cars?
No. But I literally, 15 minutes ago, I just finished doing a mighty little tow bar on a mighty little Hyundai Kona. Ooh. Third one I've done, Kona, and all three of them have from up past your way, all from Northland. This one came down to me to get done, but yeah, busy day. 3 Model Ys and a Kona.
Fantastic. None of those Konas for the New Zealand Police. Of course, we heard the news today that the New Zealand Police have bought a reasonable number of Konas and a few Ioniq 5s on the side.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I think they're all for
exciting news.
Yeah, for non-frontline staff, but I think it's a good sign that they're heading in that direction and trying some of that stuff, because there's very little reason why non-frontline staff can't be driving electric vehicles, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah, and I mean with the mileage they do, and the they're not, as I understand it anyway, they're not so much company cars. They're more just vehicles to use during the working time. So yeah, sounds like a great use.
Yeah, it's interesting. That Kona just still seems to be a bit old model now, but it's still trucking along and still selling in really good volumes to fleets. I think they just love the simplicity of that car.
It's the range king, mate. That's why.
Yeah, it is super efficient. Right, so we will move on now into our usual section, and I'm going to try and do some magic of cinema here and go through into the news. Now, the first news is not really news. It's me just doing a little bit of marketing here. The EVs and Beyond YouTube channel. I really want everyone who's watching this, particularly if you're watching on Facebook, to jump over and subscribe to the EVs and Beyond YouTube channel. We've just passed 3,000 subscribers, which, if our friend from Kiwi EV Adventure is watching, that is, I know, nothing in the scheme of things. But to me, that's a lot of subscribers, I feel. And we are just pumping out the content at the moment. If I have a look through here, and we'll touch on some of this in the news, we have got a few videos from field days. We looked at the new Ford e-Transit, the Hyundai Ioniq 6 was at field days, the LDV Maxus stand, which had the EV Ute, and what I think was one of the coolest vehicles of the show. It was a little e-Deliver 3 pickup truck. Everyone loves a little pickup truck. That was there. We have that video that we've popped around a few places, and that is we drove the LDV Ute and a e-Deliver 9 from Auckland to Wellington. It was a really cool trip. Popped in to see Steve there on the way. We have our kind of first drive review of the Maxus, or LDV Maxus MEFA 9, which is sitting out in my driveway at the moment. And then lots of BYD content, which just rates like crazy. Mercedes-Benz EQB review. We've got all sorts of stuff there. Go on there, subscribe, have a look through it. It's a great way to spend some time, as far as I'm concerned. But then I would say that, and probably, I guess, pop over and go and see Steve's YouTube channel as well. You guys have got a YouTube channel, haven't you, Steve?
We do. We've Jay pumps a bunch of videos out on there, and it's hard getting the subscribers and that sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely, get on there and hit the button and.
Yep, you can go and bookmark it on YouTube on your Model Y if you want. We are getting a little. We're getting a little bit of feedback from you, Mark. So I'm just going to mute you when we're not necessarily until we come to you, if that's okay. No, we're not trying to just push you out. Just the sound. Just the sound.
Oh, it's a good way to wise thing to do anyway, Richard. Just maybe have a 10-second delay on Mark so you can just filter out certain things.
Now, the other element of promotion this week, of course, is we're about a week ago or so ago now. Yeah, a week today. We put out the latest EVs and Beyond magazine, of course, covering the MEFA 9. We go through the winners in the Low Emission Transport Fund, the latest round. We look at the pilot charges, as you do. Talk about ABB's Terra 360, the units that are coming through. Sparky, the Ports of Auckland tugboat. We go to Auckland's e-bike expo. And we drive a few of these. As I said, the MEFA 9, the Mercedes-Benz EQB. We look at the new Opals that have arrived in the country. And I ride something that was really interesting and a little bit of fun. I drove a Storm, it's by Storm Rides out of Auckland, an e-scooter, the the Carbo Wolf King Pro GT, which was a 2-wheel drive e-scooter with 2 kilowatt motors. So that was a bit of a beast, and a little bit fun to fold up and get into the car. Have you built anyone a rack to carry big beefy e-scooters yet, Mark?
I haven't built any racks, but there are some decent racks that will definitely do that for sure. Done a few cargo racks for guys have bought cargo racks that we've fitted on. So there's a few of those over on David's EV Towing Adventures page.
Cool, awesome. I love that scooter, but folding it and getting in and out of the BMW i4 was fun, to say the least. It's over a metre long, 50 odd kilos in weight. And while I look big, that's a lot of weight to carry. And
that car's got plenty of room.
Yes, exactly. Well, no, not the i4. It's tight. Anyway, let's move on to some really real towing news, and that is the Tesla Semi has officially been launched and delivered, and it's completed an 800-kilometre trip with a full load. According to Elon Musk. They also then did a further load of chips and Pepsi down to the launch event, which they've shown on Livestream, and that's I'm probably not sure if that was up at the full 81,000 pound tow load.
That's a lot of chips and Pepsi.
That is a lot of chips and Pepsi. Don't want to sound negative, but just want to note that I think at 81,000 pounds, that's still quite a way short of New Zealand's big B trains, the 50 max ones. But still more than most towing vehicles, I'm guessing they're Mr. Towing King.
Yeah, pretty impressive, really, when you think about if they can do 500 miles with that sort of weight. It's more than what we need here. That's just awesome. Just need a mega charger in Taupo and Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch and Dunedin, and you're away.
I think there's some questions that still need to be asked. I don't think we actually know entirely what the weight of the truck was versus the weight of the load. So I think at 81,000 pounds, I think it's about 7 or 8 tons short of our maximum. And then the truck itself, I believe, is substantially heavier than a normal truck. So it will be interesting to see what the actual final net payload is of all that. But super exciting.
I'm guessing that 900 kilowatt hour battery estimated is quite heavy.
I'll take a wild guess that it is. Well, Steve might have an idea on this because they've played around with a few batteries. What's a 100 kilowatt Tesla battery weigh in it, roughly?
Oh, I do know this, but I've forgotten. I think they're, what are they? Are they 600? No, they're 500 something kgs. Are they? I thought they were. Yeah, because the leaf pack's about 350.
Yes, it's probably 500.
Yeah. I know that the 100 kilowatt hour pack's 80 kgs more than the 85s. There we go. Google it. Yeah.
No, I'm weighing. I'm doing something else. Yeah.
All right.
I'm sorry. I'm finding another weight. So I guess we could suggest that we're talking about a 4-ton battery versus an 8-cylinder truck motor, which apparently weighs about half a ton.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the one. Pardon? What's that, Steve?
Yeah, I mean that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? About around those sorts of numbers.
A lot of great features, such as the standing in the cab to take your jacket off, and just the driver's going to be so less fatigued after a big long drive. It's going to be awesome. Yeah,
interesting to see that they only at this stage are only doing a day cab, not something set up for particularly long haul trips. But I'm sure they'll get there at some point. I'd suggest that maybe it's weight that they're avoiding by not doing a bigger cab or something, but who knows. But exciting to see that it's underway. Hopefully it could come here relatively early in the piece, considering the fact that it's a centre drive. So I guess they don't have to wait until they convert it to a left or right hand drive option.
Yeah. It's such a good sector to have electric vehicles in, because as we know with our sort of work vehicle and Mark's work vehicle electric cars just love being used. You know, you put them in a situation where you just drive them every day as far as they can go and just charge them, and they just, you know, they do so much better than a combustion engine from a sort of heavy use point of view. So yeah, it's just gonna be amazing when not necessarily just this, but when other, you know, long haul trucks and vehicles like that hit the market. It's yeah, very exciting.
Yeah. Andrew says the Tesla truck would be interesting to see what the range would be here as opposed to the US freeway system. The video looked like a pretty flat drive. They do go through a bit of a incline coming through between kind of that you know, back valleys of California into the through LA and then down to San Diego. But yeah, it is a very well set up freeway system. So yeah, it'd be interesting. Look, it's the old deal. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect for everything, as long as it's good for something.
Yeah.
It's
So we've noticed with sorry.
No, you go.
I was just saying we've noticed with Hulk, our Tesla Model S that we tow 2.5 ton with, you know, the difference between having 2.5 ton or, you know, unloaded at 800 kgs is it's more to do with aerodynamics on the flat. Weight seems to have very little to do with it. You tow something that's I guess around 1700 kgs, or really pushing it right to that limit, or something that's 1300 kgs. The actual range consumption on fairly flat roads is minimal. It's the hills that, you know, that the weight becomes relevant. So it's, yeah, it'd be interesting. I think there'd be certain environments where once you get moving with the torque of an electric motor, for the big semi truck, once you actually get it off the, you know, get it up to speed, if it is fairly flat, you know, it might actually be pretty impressive with the weight, because it's obviously pretty aero.
Yeah. As I said though, it doesn't have to be good for everything. Look, don't expect necessarily a Tesla truck to immediately run Auckland to Wellington overnight trucking runs. But then only a very small number of the trucks in New Zealand that are out there do that. They use purpose-built trucks for that. But heck, you know, Auckland to Tauranga runs, around Auckland runs, huge amount of transport simply running containers back and forth from Auckland to, you know, the nearest port, from where you go to your nearest port, which are relatively small trips. Not necessarily always at a laden level either.
Our mate Adam Middlebob, everybody's mate Adam Middlebob, very excited about the semi. As most of you know, he drives an EV truck daily, and he's now in a fancy Scania. But he's been driving a lot of buses and all sorts of EV heavy transport vehicles, and yeah, he's going to be the first one in the semi in New Zealand, surely.
We've been seeing a bunch of the Geely buses at the hypercharger across the road.
Yes,
there's some purple. I've been seeing 3. I don't know whether it's the same 3 over and over, or there's 3 new ones each day. But
so there are a number to go down. JDB Group, the distributors who are bringing those buses in, there's just a shortage of coastal shipping at the moment, and so they've found it easier just to get some drivers and drive them down the country. Yeah. I believe they charge in Hamilton, Taupo, and then Wellington, and then on to, or they go all the way from Wellington to Christchurch in one hit.
Yeah. So I had a little sneak peek at the HPC, and it was charging about 135 kilowatt. And I think it had taken on about 135 kilowatt hour. So I don't know, are they a couple of hundred kilowatt hour, or are they 150
I think they're
or something? Or
I would have to find it exactly, but I think they're about. Ooh, no, I'm not going to answer that question. I did get told somewhere,
at least 135, I know that.
I believe it is quite a bit more than that. Yeah.
I didn't know, obviously, what they started.
400, 400 kilowatt hour.
I think it is.
I remember one being 400.
Yeah, I believe they're 400. And I believe one of the issues they have with charging when they're taking them on long distances is that they can't just charge in any charger, because they are a high voltage battery, obviously, so they need a higher voltage charger to charge. So they can only really charge on the ChargeNet ones, or I believe in Hamilton and in Wellington, they charge at specific charges at bus company depots that aren't necessarily fast but can operate at the So they're that's an interesting one. We're likely to go for a ride on one of those trans-shipping trips. We're just waiting for timing to work on that. And I've got to get through my next little road trip, which we'll talk about a little bit later, which is sort of related. Now, the other news that's been out there is that ChargeNet have finally, their price rises have gone through. Not everyone's entirely happy about it, which is the case, I guess. It depends on what you're driving. From my understanding, if you're driving a nice slow charging Leaf, it's probably a win. If you're driving something big which charges fast, it's probably not that big of a win. The pricing started on November 30th. They still haven't bought the idle fee in yet, but now, depending on where you are, it's a 3-tiered system. You're paying 80 cents a kilowatt hour. You do the miles, Steve. Is that going to hurt your back pocket a little bit?
Yeah. So we noticed our first. I took a screenshot of it. I think it was about maybe $70 charge. I think it was with Hulk. We rocked up to Coromandel. Tim was about 1% and charged to I think 80 or 90, and it was a bit of a lump.
Did you say 1%?
1%, yeah.
YOLO.
yeah. YOLO, yeah.
It's normal, isn't it?
I was scheduled to have 5, and I burnt the the extra 4 because I was just sending it. It was a calculated one. Yeah, it was
warming the battery.
Pretty much, yeah. But no, that was I mean, it's just because we're preconditioned EV folk who've been driving electric cars for so long that we're anything over $20 is a bit whoa. So, but no, I mean it's we installed one at Drive EV. I mean, they're not cheap units to put in. I mean, they're $40K before you open the box, basically, or they were. So, I mean, everything else is going up. So, it's still in the scheme of things. But it is, it's definitely noticeable.
Mm-hmm. Mark, does this mean you'll be sticking to the Tesla charges to keep your bill down?
Well, I'm still got some referral Ks that I'm trying to use up. So most of my Ks are around Auckland, so I'm charging up at home, and it won't affect me too much, except for when I do the quarterly road trips. So that's not too bad. I think I'll probably concentrate on doing a bit more, charging where I stay rather than charging on the trip. Yeah. But I don't think it's going to affect me too much. And I like the idea of the, it's now going to charge. If you leave your car sitting there and it's finished charging, you're going to get charged for it. So I'm happy about that.
Idle fees are good. I also think there should be some form of. I think they need to bring back some form of system like the time charge, just to discourage charging over 80% as well. I think that's something that's been missed in this price change shift, and hopefully they'll eventually realise that it maybe doesn't work the best for utilisation. We'll see.
I see.
I totally agree with that too. But it is something that if everyone charges to 95%, it's just going to take forever for little gains.
I did a little trip up north, and as I often do, and I came back down, and I was going to get back to home at 2%, which would have been fine, but I ended up with a bit of a detour because they closed the Dome Valley.
As usual.
So I had to go, and they closed it down by the Mangawhai Road, so I had to go back up to 16 and back down. So I was coming down, I thought, I'll go into Kumu there, where the Vector chargers are, and I pull in there at 10:30 at night on a weeknight, and there's 2 cars there, a Tesla and a Leaf, not that matters, but one of them had been there 12 minutes, and he was on 87%, and the other one was at about 70-something%, and he'd been there 9 minutes. So it was kind of like, these guys are there to charge up, why aren't they at home? It's just the top of the battery, but they're just, it's crazy.
Well, you may have stumbled across this chat before, Mark, but at Walkworth, there is a guy who goes to the gym at about 5:36 in the morning, a lot of days of the week, and he will go and park his import Model S on the charger at Walkworth, the Vector charger, and leave it there while he goes to the gym. It's just like do you need to do it every day, buddy?
Because I mean that's the thing. If that's sitting there on, if you've got like an 85 kilowatt hour, Model S, you turn up at 83%. That's going to dribble away, to that 95 or 100%. That's going to take a while. That's a gym workout.
Hey, It won't be much longer, and someone else will own them, and they'll be charged, and then that guy won't be there.
Yep. So that tender's either underway or closed now, but someone new will own those chargers soon. It'll be interesting to see who. I've actually got no indication from anyone as to who's picked them up or who's in the running for that. But yeah, if someone's going to pay for them, they're probably going to want to make some money out of them. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I've always, whenever I'm sort of time scheduled, if we're doing a delivery or something like that, I basically ignore any free charges, any Vector charges. I don't even look at them. I just assume that they're full. If I've got a time schedule, they're just not even on the radar.
Exactly. Right, let's fire through these last couple of news stories so that we can get on to discussing what we're already kind of leaning into, which is kind of tips for long distance travel. And that is Ford New Zealand has landed, well, they've gone beyond displaying, they've landed the e-Transit in New Zealand at field days. And my understanding is there are now a few vans here that if you were to put in an order, you'd actually get relatively quickly. So we have a van that's, it's a transit van. It's a fairly big, kind of ready to go cargo business van that we have there. 68 kilowatt battery, the WLTP range of 317 kilometers. The motor is pretty grunty, 198 kilowatts and 430 newton meters of torque, making it the most powerful transit currently available. And it is $89,990, which I think for a vehicle like that is actually not bad. The battery sits underneath, because it's same size load area as the diesel. GVM of 4.2 tons with a payload of 1,616 kilograms. So that's a pretty beastie wagon. And I don't know about anyone else, but I was actually surprised that they kind of managed to land that at that price. I was expecting it to be close to 100. Consider that's not significantly more than a similarly sized battery E-Deliver 9. Is that appealing to either of you guys? Either of you want a big transit van? Who doesn't love a van?
It's awesome.
Pretty useful.
I had a good look around it, but I don't think it will do that sort of range that they're claiming. It's too much of a brick for that size battery to be able to go that far, but can't wait to test it out.
I think they're 100 kilowatt hour e-transit, or am I imagining that?
Yeah, there is too. So those figures there are for the 350 model, and if I look up the text that I got the other day from the boss of Ford New Zealand, where are we? No, that doesn't really give that information.
While you're looking up your texts, so I looked at the Mach-E as well, which was awesome at that same stand. The first shipment's all sold out, but if you order the Mach-E now, you'll get it in June or July. They've got a pretty decent price tag though, but June or July if you haven't put your order in and you want one.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing they were saying to me about that was that the entry level one, they didn't think the entry level one would be that popular. They thought people would go for the standard ones anyway, but the entry level one's making up in the high 60% range of the orders. And I was sitting there going, well, why were you that surprised at that? Because people love free money. And sure, it's really not massively fast or have a massively good, it doesn't have a massive range. It's kind of, pretty slightly matched to kind of somewhere half between a Y and a 3 and a bit like that, but probably not quite as good a value. But that's a Mustang for $71,500 drive away, or why wouldn't you? Why would you go and spend the extra $30-40 to not go that much faster? So yeah,
Correct.
it's got all the looks. But anyway, so that's the first 4D Transit. I'm trying that very soon as well. They've got a smaller electric version of the new generation Transit Custom coming next year. Hearing all sorts of rumors about electric pickup trucks and stuff like that, but yeah, I think Ford is maybe slightly one to watch around electrification. They had a bit of a slow start, but they'll be underway soon, I think, and I think it's going to be particularly exciting when they get access to the Volkswagen electric platform, which they're taking. So maybe you might see some Fords coming in at better value than maybe some of the Volkswagens with the same technology underneath. That would be interesting, and probably dealers like yourself, Steve, out of the UK, would show us what they've got first anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're always keen to look at something new.
Speaking of other electric vehicles coming onto the market, we have pricing for the Audi Q4 e-tron and Audi e-tron Sportback. The e-tron SUV is going to be priced at $99,999 plus on-roads for the advanced, and $126,990 for the Q450 e-tron S-Line models. You can order one from February 1 with a deposit of $5,000. There's actually a couple in the country already, so I guess they're just kind of waiting for supply to build up. The vehicles have a 522, about 500 kilowattish range for the S-Line models, 540 plus for the standard. Pretty interesting car, good to add to the market. I think being above the limit these days is going to somewhat limit its appeal, but someone will buy it. I think they'll sell a few. I'd argue at those prices, if I could afford those, I'd probably jump straight to the full-fat e-tron, which is becoming the Q8 e-tron. But I guess the smaller vehicle does appeal to a lot of people. So that one is coming soon. And then for you Gearly lovers out there, the only real news I have for you this week is something that's pretty well been around the traps by now, and that is that the BYD has expanded its dealer network from 4 new showrooms we opened by the end of 2022, with further expansion confirmed with a Hawke's Bay, Northland, and a service centre in Queenstown, all due before the end of March next year. That will bring BYD New Zealand representation to 11 showrooms across the country. Now, the interesting one with this was that I was on the BYD Australian Owners Club there, and obviously they've had a few complaints and a few issues over there. And they said, the problem with the BYD in Australia is that Victoria has about the same number of people as New Zealand, and New Zealand's going to have 11 dealers, and they've got 1 showroom. So, happy customers here, not happy customers there. I mean, I think Tesla is a rare beast that's been able to keep so many customers happy with such a small footprint. I think a lot of the times when these companies come in, Steve, and go, we'll do all these new flash ways, they forget that dealers still do play a bit of a part in the process, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing it with Tesla. I mean, people say, the Tesla dealer model is completely different and not at all like any other, but we're starting to get dealers everywhere, and they're just doing it on a smaller scale, and we get it all the time. Like often with when we sell Teslas to people, we talk about the experience that sometimes I guess often buyers who are used to buying Audis and sort of franchise products, not having anyone to ring up and say, hey, this is happening, they can get a bit disgruntled about that. So I think more dealers is often helps add that support and keeps people happy. So
yeah. And Mark, are you still there, or are you frozen somewhere in the ether?
He's either asleep or frozen, but
he's dropped off. Did you pop to field days, Steve?
No, I didn't. No, I was too busy adventuring, enjoying.
Did you watch the high quality live stream on on EVs and Beyond in regards to the BYD Tachyon.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can't remember what happened. So tell me about it.
What did you think of the Tachyon?
No, I didn't actually watch it. I was on the road the whole time, so I'm not sure. You tell me, Richard.
Well, it's a BYD Atto 3 with a black leather interior, specially pleated leather sports seats front and rear. Some nice new trim. Anyone in the audience, have you guys would have seen the Tachyon? Let us know what you think there, and we'll read those comments out. We'll just run through a couple quickly while we're waiting to see if the Tesla Tow Bar King comes back or if his phone's gone flat.
Yeah, blocking the charger somewhere. Blocking several, not just one.
Yeah. Margaret says Northland Kona's rock. Well, eventually you will have to worry if you're in Northland and a Kona follows you, because they might be trying to work out how they might be about to give you a speeding ticket. Andrew says the Tesla truck would be interesting to see what the range would be. Yeah, we covered this one. It did look like a bit of a flat drive. Lance says, I'm happy with idle fees. It's a user-paid society that we live in. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trisha, I still have 400 plus credit on my charging account from my MG purchase. Early adopters got $500 credit as a sweetening fee to wait an eternity for the car to arrive. You'll probably burn through that pretty quick now, ironically, in a BYD. Margaret says, oh, yeah, you missed it because you stopped to chat. Lance Patterson says, bye-bye free charges. Yes, I agree with you. Ned says, oh, hi, everyone. How much did I miss? Not a lot. It's
about you.
it's a pretty disorganized and random and loose show tonight, Ned. Don't panic too much. Ned says, come on, Steve. I watched some of it. Trish says, are the Tachyon's muscle sinew parts on the door black velvet? And yes, they are, Trisha. Very well spotted. Yeah, they are black.
Did they upgrade the guitar strings from 6 to 12 for pros, or did they leave them?
Yeah, no. Andrew says the new Atto seats looked really good. And yes, I agree, Andrew. I said on them, they did feel very good. They're not hugely changed from the originals. It's more about the covering, but they felt as good, if not, I guess, slightly better. I like the slightly more padding on the center console. That was really helpful too. Welcome back, Mr. King.
Yeah, sorry about that. Too much BYD talk, couldn't handle it.
Oh!
No, just jokes. I did go and look at the Tachyon. It was awesome. My two favourite things at field days were I don't know if you saw it, Richard, but at the Mahindra stand, there was a Mahindra trike. I love that little thing. And the other highlight was at the e-trucks.
But can you honestly say you'd put 1.5 tons on that trike?
No, well, it's 500 kgs rated, but I wouldn't even put 500 on it. That would be scary.
Someone from the stand told me you could put 1.5 tons on that trike, and I'm going, no.
No. And at the e-trucks stand where they had the battery swap rubbish truck, they also had a big loader, a real big loader. And interestingly, it can do a whole day's work, and it's price parity. That's what it's all about. It's basically it's more expensive than a Kubota, but it was cheaper than a Volvo.
Right.
So it's right in the middle, and it's EV, and it was massive. You know, massive big loader. The tyre was, well, I'm a midget, but the tyre was well above my head.
There was a few other interesting ones there in that space too. You know, they had the Hyundai hydrogen truck there, and they also had a kind of smaller, kind of mid-size electric truck there that looked like it could be pretty handy and a bit of a competitor to the Canters that have become quite popular. The e-Canters, it's maybe a little bit bigger than that, I think. Not massive range, but designed for the kind of round town stuff. But as I said in my video, and I'm weird, one of my favourite electric vehicles, the whole thing, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm not sure if you caught it, Mark, was the E-Deliver 3 with a cab chassis with an aftermarket flat deck on it. That flat deck was massive. And unless you were carrying anything heavy, there would be a heck of a lot of jobs you could do with that little truck. Is that any take on that one?
I did like that little truck.
A lot of tow bars on there, mate.
And I also sat in the 3 different versions of the MIFA, like
Yes.
you've got in your driveway. And I decided that you'd buy the one for the rebate. I didn't get to play with the massage seats because the batteries were flat on all 3. Apparently, the batteries were flat, which is a bit disappointing at the show. You'd think that you'd want to be able to test stuff out a bit better, but time will come, Kind of needed a bit of a paper bag over the front of it, but the rest of it looked great.
I don't think my daughter is calling it the spaceship, and
Very good.
Yeah,
take
I think
off.
they look cool. Yeah,
We take off like a rocket. Yeah. It's a Corvette. It drives really well. It does not drive like a people mover. It drives like a bigger, older school station wagon. It's not particularly sharp or anything like that.
What are those luxury? There's the Crossfire or something. There's a bunch of luxury. They do like a Nissan and a Toyota vans that they've got all the massaging chairs and
El Grand and Alfards and
the real top. They're about $100,000. They're real top end ones, but
that's what it competes with. It's a bit more spacious than that, and it sits a lot lower on the roads. It's a bit more car-like than that. It is a big vehicle. It's very big. It has so many good reasons about it, but it has one really big design flaw that I didn't pick up until I got home. Like I've DC charged it when we were out at the launch. But then I got it home yesterday. Today, I picked up my daughter from daycare and brought her back to our place. I want to charge up because I got to go to the city in the morning. Put her in front of the garage. Went to get her out, having plugged the car in, and realised that you can't open the passenger side back door when you're charging. Because the charging port is where the fuel flat would be on the petrol one, and it's behind the passenger side door. Or even for that matter, I guess even with the petrol one, if you're at a gas station and your kids wanted to go out and get candy or whatever it is, they've got to go out the driver's side while you're charging. The door...
So does it not let you, or does it snap the power cord off?
It doesn't let you. So if you push the electric slide button, it just doesn't operate. If you pull the handle, it'll unlock and it'll pop out slightly, but then it uses some kind of magnet or blocker to stop itself going back further. So good from that perspective, but it would have been nice if they'd put the charging port at the nose or something like that.
Charging port at the nose is such a beautiful thing. These charging ports at the back, they're just hard work. It's just hard work.
Well, I find it weird too, in that a vehicle like that, which is front wheel drive, it's got all the charging hardware under the front. Though there is a frunk on it, it does have a frunk. Then surely they're basically having to put cable all the way to the back of the vehicle to put the charging port at the back. That's got to go all the way back to the front to go through to the inverter and all that kind of stuff. I don't get why they do it other than not wanting to weld up a hole at the back. But then they could have just filled it with plastic. Who really cares?
Yeah, maybe on the petrol stamping building point of view, it's such a huge cost.
Yep, exactly.
Moving the frame, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Right, there's a couple more comments. Where do you guys like your charging points? It's probably a really good question. I personally am a big fan of the front. I like the front side, like the Audis, the Porsches, and the BYD Atto 3s, I must say.
I'm okay with the front side as long as it's reasonably close to not sort of like the the LDV camper where it's kind of behind the door. Like it's front guard or front is definitely the way to go.
What's interesting on where's the E-Deliver 9 have it? Is it on the nose as well? Oh, I can't remember. No, it's on the nose. Yeah, E-Deliver 9, the Max LDV minimum line, that's on the nose. So why they couldn't do the same, I don't know. A couple more comments here. Trisha says BYD Tauranga have wrapped a red Atto 3 in matte black wheels, etc. That looks very nice. I'm aware. I believe I've seen one of those too. I have seen one of those in the hands of Mr. Wilmot. Neil John says the Crando wheels are very poor. Okay. The Tachyon is a thing of real beauty. MG Mark 1 has the best charging port location, centre front. And Ned says, why can't we have 2? It's just cables and relays. Just put 2. I agree. The only being is I suspect that the Chinese versions with GBT and stuff possibly do have to. I will tell you one thing that's not good about the MG Mark 1 charging point, Tricia, and that's that because it was so hard to see, people actually have a habit of leaning on the front bonnet leading edge of those cars. So walk around Mark 1 MG ZSEVs and look for a little bit of folding and perforation and sometimes dimple dents on the front of the bonnet from where people have been leaning on the bonnet. So there's a bit of a negative to that particular setup. Now we've lost the king again, but we'll keep going. So we're talking about the MEFA9 here. Next week I'm going on a bit of a road trip in the MEFA9 all the way down to Christchurch, and it's got me thinking. We're going to do the video that we're doing from that trip around this and a story in our special summer issue that's coming out in a couple of weeks around avoiding charging congestion this summer. And I have a few tips. We'll run through those, and I'd love to hear some of yours. I've been working through some of these, planning this trip and also planning a trip for my general manager, Deborah, who is taking the company MG ZSEV with her husband and 2 teenage girls and their luggage from Auckland to Wellington in January, which I think is brave, as to what you can do. Now, my first and biggest tip is, of course, plan in advance. Actually do the research in advance. See if you can actually do the trip relatively easily. Jump on things like a better route planner and the, of course, wonderful New Zealand-made Power Trip. Work out where you're going. Work out what the distance you have to cover and whether your car has the range to do it. And I'm going to say something very controversial here. If you have a Gen 1 Leaf, stay at home this summer.
Ooh.
Or consider going slightly close to home or very short distances of a day, because traveling around, and Steve, you may agree or disagree with this one, traveling around in those vehicles relies heavily on being able to access pretty much any time you need to a 50 kilowatt DC charger, and that might not be the case for a lot of people this summer. And I know these days you deliver those cars by trailer. So
this is true. There is the odd one we don't, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think all EVs have equal rights on the roads. So I mean, if you're driving a plug-in hybrid and you're at the charge net charger, then a little 7-bar Leaf has got every right to be there as well.
Well, I think the same should go for PHEVs. PHEV drivers this summer, just be courteous and stay away from the chargers if you don't need to use them. And I stand by my position on Leafs as well. I think for those older things, I think people need to accept sometimes when just because you can doesn't mean you should. And you've got the potential to end up sometimes waiting a very long time for charging. And you're not going to have the ability to move on in the same way that cars with a bigger range can. You're going to be stuck waiting, and it's going to be hot. You're going to cook the battery. You're going to piss off the wife or husband or whoever, or the kids.
I think if you're driving a little Zedeo Leaf, then you need to be prepared what's coming. Be prepared that you get to that destination, and the most important thing is you make sure it's operating before you leave. And once you get there, if there's a queue, then you wait till the queue finishes. That's the deal.
The one advantage you may have is going to when you get to the big hypercharger setups, of course, is that
that's right.
You CHAdeMO versus CCS, but that could be a negative because you might turn up to a place and there'd be 8 Leafs waiting and lots of free CCS.
Just make sure you get it right to 100. No point in stopping at 80.
Yeah. So so Leafs, stay at home. Everyone else, carry on from here. I guess
I'll add to that there's a lot of 30 kilowatt hour Leafs out there that are very, very capable of doing 15-minute zip zaps.
I don't know.
Don't bar Leafs, Richard. Come on, mate.
I don't know.
Another hand up for the Leafs. I've got a 5-bar Leaf. It does 60 k's. It's great.
But
it doesn't at the moment.
But would you suggest that taking it in the week between Christmas and New Year's and attempting to drive to Taupo is probably a socially spicy thing to do.
I wouldn't attempt to do that at any time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
It's a round
the key. I think the key thing is if you turn up somewhere and there's a 3-car queue, they're not going to let you jump the queue because you're a little leaf that has to charge, no matter how nice they are. They're going to want to get where they need to go as well. My second tip is plan on not DC charging or DC charging as little as possible. And by that I mean plan your trip around the fact that sometimes charging is going to be congested. You're not always going to be able to charge where you want to charge. And sometimes it's just easier to not DC charge. So, for example, with our trip Auckland to Christchurch, we're taking the chill route, and we're taking 2 nights of accommodation on the way down and splitting the trip up into 3. Now, the EP9 is a vehicle with reasonable fast charging that we could easily get down with 2 drivers, go Auckland to Christchurch in one hit with the ferry along the way. But we're going to spend a lot of time at charges on that day, and I just think I'd rather not. So what we've done is we've gone on to booking.com, and I think there's other booking sites are out there that do this, and we've booked accommodation with charging. Now, you can't always rely that you're actually going to get that charging because a few people might have the similar idea, but get in early, ask, try and secure it now, because charging while you sleep is the best way to charge. Personally, I feel that's the best way to charge. And yeah, I would suggest to people though, if you are doing that and you are looking on, clicking the EV charging on the booking.com site or various other sites, actually verify using PlugShare or calling up that they actually have the charging. Because you'll probably know this, Steve, there's a pile of motels in Taupo that claim to have EV charging, but when you go and actually look at it a little bit closer, they are just close to the EV chargers, so they've claimed themselves to have EV chargers.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of that before, but no, that's pretty cunning. If you get the spot on PlugShare for a bit of trickery. that's
Yeah. So for example, on our trip with the EP9, we're driving Auckland to Wellington in a day. We're going to charge up overnight at the Movenpick Hotel, and then the next day we've got some work in Wellington, and then we're on the ferry at 1:30, and then we're staying in Kaikoura, and we're charging up overnight in the new Sedima hotel there, which I believe has 4 11 kilowatt, maybe 11s or 22s EV power charging units.
Meridian ones, are they? Or are they part of that, or are they their own?
I believe they own them themselves. They're the EV power ones that like the one I've got at home. So
I've been bumping into a few of the Meridian Zero. They've got some lovely 22s kicking around. We were lucky enough to use one on Targa, and yeah, they're a beautiful thing because they've often got 2 of them there, and if you can get, like, a lot of the EVs can get 11, some even 22. They're even if you're not staying the night, even if you just if you're on holiday, chances are you're gonna spend 3 hours having your lunch and wandering around, and at 22 kilowatt, that's a fair bit of juice, and even 11.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm going to go back to the start, and well, not to the start, we're in planning, but departing on the trip now. A tip I would give people is to leave full. And I know that sounds really dumb, but I have done it before, and that I've gotten so busy getting ready to go that I've forgotten to charge the car. And that top 20% above 80% makes all the difference on a trip. If you'll never get back that 20%, you're chasing it the entire trip. I did
that the other day when I went to Thames, and I arrived on 1%. I didn't charge it because I was too busy to. Well, I did charge it, but I didn't do the 100%. And I put it on at work on the 22 while I got ready and put the trailer on and all that. And I got to 95, and I was thinking when I rocked up, because usually you get 98, 99. I was thinking that extra couple of percent. That's the difference between arriving on 5 or arriving on 1.
Exactly. And I've done it before, thinking I'll just top up a Bombay on my way down, it won't be an issue. But then you're never getting that extra percentage back, and that extra percentage takes a long time to get those last little bits. Even
is, trying to DC charge a car before you go is just a terrible thing. You have a car that's on 20%, it's totally cold. You rock up to a DC charger, you got a car that charges 120 kilowatt, and it starts dribbling away at 25, and then comes up to 30. It's just the worst. It's just the worst way to do it. It's all wrong.
Now, the next thing you need to do before you're leaving too is put the kid on a weight budget. So actually think about what you need to take. Weight does matter. There's a lot of debates around whether it's weight or aero that makes a big difference when it comes to EV range. But think about what you're taking. Don't shortchange yourself. You just have to charge more later on. But think about whether it does make a difference to you. And also look at things like bikes, all that kind of things. If you're going to really use your bikes, then definitely take them. If you might take them. I personally wouldn't. Because again, chucking a big bike around the back or a couple of bikes on the roof or a trailer on the back is really going to suck that extra range. And also, last but not least, check your tyre pressure. Go to the placard level, maybe a few degree percentage higher, and make sure everything's in good condition and the car's safe and ready to go. Now, when you're on the road, I think the big rule is charge early. And if you have to, charge often. And what do I mean by that? Again, something I've been caught out by before. If I have a car that can do 350 kilometres, I will try and get to the charger that's 349 kilometres away, or probably more like 300 kilometres away. I'll go to the extent of the range, which is a good idea in that you're not using as many chargers. But the problem being is once you get there, you're on that charger for a long time. But what's worse is that if you get there and there's a big queue, you don't have any other choices. And you can't go further. So my theory is if I'm, say, cruising from Auckland to Wellington, and I am passing through, say, I can make it to Taupo, but I'm passing through, or say I can make it to Tokoroa, if I'm passing through T-Rail and I see there's a charger empty, jump on it. Take a 20-minute break. Go and grab some power, because that gives you options later on. If you get to Taupo and everything is magically full, well, it means you can carry on to Turangi or Wairau. If you see an empty charger, utilize it. It sounds silly to use a charger when you don't actually need to use it, but it means that you don't have to use a charger later, or you can use a charger for less time later. And also by breaking up those charges, potentially actually being a little bit kinder to your battery rather than doing it all in one hit. I think it's a smart move. Steve, any thoughts on that? I mean, do you think people should reach for maximum range or give themselves options along the way? Yeah,
I mean, I think definitely giving yourself options. I mean, we sort of push things to the limit and have a bit of a laugh about it, but we're actually, working in a different schedule to the general public. We're actually being a commercial sort of purpose of what we're doing. If it was, around that 10 days around Christmas, there's no way I'd be rocking up to a charger with 100 kilowatt hour EV on 1%, because like you say, you're there. If there's 10 cars there, then that's it. If it's broken, then you're in serious trouble. But absolutely. I mean, there's lots of sort of detour options and side options, and just enjoy the summer. I mean, stop. I've had more fun on road trips stopping in places I wasn't expecting to. Just take it easy and enjoy it, and that's what it's all about this time of year. It's good advice.
Exactly. Go back to the prep thing again. Of course, you need all your charge apps this year. I think there's about 4 different networks. Have a look around PlugShare and the various apps before you go too, because there's a whole pile of new chargers popping up at the moment that I didn't necessarily know about and are coming up fast and being added to the network fast. ChargeNet keep on adding extra units. Z Energy's have units popping up and going live regularly. BP's got units popping up now. I did not realise there were 2 75 kilowatt chargers at Millwater until I checked the BP app the other day. I drive past them every day and had no idea until I checked the app. So really do that research before you go. Make sure all the apps. I think fobs are nice, but I think the apps are actually the more reliable way to do things personally. They even have to take a little bit more extra time at the charger.
I've been pleasantly surprised with some newer sort of higher powered units like in Turangi and that sort of thing popping up. So it's definitely. Yeah. I think as well, if you've got a car that's capable of charging at over 50 kilowatt, really try and target those higher powered units, because you're going to have less congestion. the little ZDO Leaf trying to hop around is going to be going to the other ones, and you know, if you've
The
got
ZDO should be targeting the Delta 25 kilowatt units. That's the best unit for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And getting 22 kilowatt from them. So at peak, at peak.
And on the charging thing too, I think where you can, and this, you know, it doesn't necessarily is such a big issue if you're doing what I'm suggesting about keeping an eye out for chargers that are free, and you can usually see on the app, and if you see a charger that's free on your route, grab 20 minutes, and that is target for your critical chargers, target multi-unit locations. So target Taupo, target the new Mercer location, target places where they have more than one plug, because it's going to reduce your chance of waiting just so much more. And generally those multi-unit ones have been pretty well placed to be in handy locations as well. Yeah, it's that's another one, I guess, for those key tips to keep an eye on. You Teslas are a bit lucky. You got a slightly more options, and generally you've got a bit of range. But yeah, kind of wish suddenly Tesla would open up the Tesla network in New Zealand just for the summer, but I can't see it really happening.
I can't see it.
Yeah.
No.
Trust the Grom. Trust the GOM, eh, Steve? You know, I always end up at 1 or 2% if I have to. Why not? There's no problem.
Yeah,
you know,
well, it depends on your GOM. I wouldn't trust the GOM on our ZDO Leaf that says it can do 160 k's when it's full, and it never do that. But
I don't trust any GOMs. I like cars with percentage meters, with percentage indicators.
Yeah.
Going from the MG, where basically you've got bars and a GOM, and the bars, kind of when you get down to the last bar, you've still got like 50k left. But you don't know how much of that 50k you've got left. Down versus the BYD, where I've like you guys have, I've happily run a Taupo with 2% before, because I knew how much I was getting per percent, and what the consumption was, and I could be pretty accurate on it. So if you've got the choice,
I guess with the newer Teslas, it's easy because you can, you can have it on a percentage, and when it gets down to sort of 1%, you go, and then it gets down to 0, you click on it, and you got 5k's left, and then you've got a little buffer of, 15 or so k's under 0 that not many people are using, but it's there, But that means when I plug into the hypercharger, I'm getting huge speeds, so my turnaround's quicker because I'm using more of the battery. But not so good at, when you're heading somewhere where it's crowded. You probably want to get the charger before that one.
Well, that was the tip that we said before, was that don't charge early. Don't wait for the charger at the end of your range. Get one where that if you have to, you can skip the next charger.
Absolutely, unless it's the middle of the night or something like that.
Yep, and entirely ignore what the Tesla King said about arriving at every charger with 1%. You don't want to do that.
And the trailer.
Yeah, with a family on board, I always aim for a buffer of basically 50% of the distance I need to do again, or in some cases 50 kilometers. I like a buffer just in case it all goes horribly wrong. But yeah, conservative that I am. So those are my tips. I'll be interested to see if anyone else has any in there, and I'll go and go to the comments shortly. One thing I'd note is with this new world of expensive charging, when you are shopping for that accommodation and you are going through booking.com, you're looking at hotels and motels or campgrounds. Remember when campgrounds were like the main way for EVs to get around the country? Not so much the way these days. Though I have a blue Commando EVSE in my garage. I might take that with me actually. Realize what you're saving versus sometimes when you're going to a motel or whatever that charges money. Sorry, has a charger but offers free charging. I think you should take to account what you've saved on DC charging. So, on our trip, that we're going to arrive into Wellington with probably needing to pull on about 70 kilowatts overnight or something like that. So what's that? $60 at a ChargeNet unit now. So that's $60 that I can transfer from charging to a slightly more luxurious hotel room or the hotel bar. You've got to equal these things out.
Free drinks in the minibar.
Yeah. I guess the biggest tip of all is just stay calm, be nice to everyone. and remember that, you know, this is the start of something, and it's overall a good thing. And that the one thing I said to the hosts of the AM show when they asked me about, you know, all this kind of stuff recently in an interview, is that you've probably saved $5,000 or $6,000 in petrol for the year by driving an EV. If it means you have to wait for half an hour a couple of times during the summer at a charge during the summer, I think that's worth the money. I really do, and I think people need to remember that when they're there this summer. But be nice to each other. Queue, you know, just be chill about it. Grab yourself a coffee. Send the kids off to the shops. Whatever you got to do, you won't be waiting that long, hopefully, and yeah, it's totally worth it. And any other tips from you guys before I pull up some of the public's tips there, guys?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I think probably the most important one is if you are dependent on a charger on your route, make sure it's working. Go onto the charge near that. Go onto PlugShare. You can see they have live feeds from the charger. If it's red, then it's broken. You know, if there's certain situations where you're totally dependent on it, just make sure you do it. It's just so important. That we've got such a good system for that. You know, just check it out before you go. That's a real big one. I think probably, like you say, I mean, I think people just need to relax about traveling and just, you know, but there's sort of this up and down of cars versus infrastructure, and we're at a point now where, you know, sort of probably 18 months ago, we had amazing infrastructure for the amount of cars we had. Like, it was ridiculous how much infrastructure was outlaid for the cost benefit, which was not good. We're hitting with the sales numbers with new EVs. We are hitting a tight spot, but there's a whole bunch of infrastructure coming, and it just takes time. So we, you know, just be aware of that. It's a short-term problem, and just talk about electric cars to other electric car people when you're waiting, and, you know, go and get an ice cream and enjoy the beautiful town that you're in, and
the volume we've seen land in the last 6 months, it's gone from being not a problem to a big problem.
Yeah. And it's also, it's new owners. You know, all of these people have just got a car in the last 6 months, so everyone's a little bit green to the whole situation, and they don't quite. Well, no, that's very general, but some people don't quite understand how the infrastructure got there in the first place, and it wasn't through like the power lines. It was basically put there with blood, sweat, and tears. You know, and we're lucky to have it. So it's just a case of, you know, you're on holiday. You know, half an hour is not gonna. These things happen on the road, so just just be kind and enjoy.
Yeah, a lot of new owners, So you know, they need education.
Yeah,
be nice.
Yep.
Exactly.
I just think to get creative, you know, if you can find a charger, even AC charger that's like near a swimming pool or a tourist thing, do that instead. Or drive at night. Though I think a lot of people might have that idea. It's
well, the other thing, like, we find we don't really hit that infrastructure issue that we have people tell us about, because, you know, we're very sort of similar in our time schedules with other people out there. So, you know, if you do leave, if you get up at 7 and blah blah, and then you leave and you get on the road, and, you know, you'll find you will bump into people. We see it with our charger at work. It you know, sits there free all day, and then 5 people turn up at once. You know, so just maybe try and offset that a little bit. Maybe get up a little early, get up a little late, do things a little bit differently, and, you know, just try and change that timing.
Little tip from you, Mark.
Pretty much just echoing what Steve said. All that makes a lot of sense to me. There's a lot of us, and unfortunately a lot of new cars, a lot of new owners, and a lot of these new owners don't get told anything from the dealer, especially if it's a Tesla. They're not really, you know, they're given the car and said, here you go. And
Google
Yeah.
it.
It's a different story in the North Island to the South Island. You know, we've got it pretty good up in the North Island, I believe, with so many charges. You go some of those places, and there's definitely choke points. You know, if you're trying to go from Christchurch to Nelson, vice versa, everyone's got to stop at the same charges. You know, there's one in Culverden, one in Murchison, and there's a continuous queue at those two places now, and you can't really do much about it.
You say that, Mark, but I think they've delivered about 5,000 Teslas into the Auckland and Waikato area in the last 5 months, and they're all going to leave. They're all off to the Coromandel. So
No, the Winterless North, mate.
Oh, they all seem to come up here on day trips. See, so many EVs come to Mangawhai on day trips.
We had,
I guess
we had one charging unit not that long ago, and it was a massive bottleneck. But they get solved, these problems. It's just a case of
it's a very temporary problem. Don't forget to take your granny cable with you guys, because you can just plug it in at Grandma's, granny cable at Grandma's, and trickle charge yourself while you're there. Just buy them a box of beer or a nice bottle of wine to cover the power. Won't be too bad. Now, we have got a whole pile of tips that have come in on the Facebook page that I'll run through quickly first, or tips and questions. So I haven't read these, so let's see what they are. Trev says, with Extras holidays rapidly approaching, it would be worthwhile providing tips on how to operate fast chargers, particularly with issues people having getting them to start or stop charging. Discussion points could cover making sure your credit card has sufficient funds. Yes, make sure your credit card is sorted for your account. Or in the case of the BP and Z accounts, has actually topped up the account. Otherwise, charger may refuse to accept your charge request process to stop a charger. Make sure car is turned off, unlock the car, etc. Unless an emergency, there should be no need to hit the emergency stop. Emergency shutdowns may cause problems for the charger, leaving it unusable for the next driver. As an example, you shouldn't pull the power plug out of a home computer because you can't stop a print job. So there's a couple of things I'd say on that. If you've got a few people around there, ask, because if you don't know what you're doing, a lot of the times the other people that are there will, because they're there to use the charger. Secondly, call the helpline. The ChargeNet helpline I've heard is very helpful and very quick to answer things, and sometimes it's the best way to short circuit what can be a time-consuming drama. And you guys might have a different view on this, but my biggest thing for making sure chargers work is I hold the plug in firmly to the car while it locks. I don't know why I've got into that habit, but a couple of cars I've found, it's just the best way to make sure you don't get a failed connection. Maybe it just works with your Teslas, but yeah, fine with some of the other stuff. It is a little more.
I was unprepared for the length of that comment, but I have to add that if you head to the Drive EV YouTube channel, there's a video that Jay's made on how to operate a DC charger, among other very straightforward.
I see Ned there in the comments. Ned, can you chuck the link to that video in the comments for us, please? So there you go. Might as well promote straight to the source. Margaret says, people need to expect delays and treat their trips like an adventure, an opportunity to explore new places and meet new people. It's not a race. If you do need to be somewhere by a certain time, leave earlier, travel at night, take an overnight stop somewhere new or with friends. Leave all expectations of being able to just sail into charges and find them empty at home. Exactly. Stephen says onto that one, great with adults, not great with young kids. We're driving more than 20 minutes as a chore. We semi-regularly do a trip that takes 3.5 to 4 hours in an ice. But when you have to factor in charge stops, it's a no-go in a Leaf at least. And that is the point in a Leaf. I think you're slightly kidding yourself if you think a Leaf is a great car to do a long-distance summer road trip in New Zealand this summer. Personally, talk to Avis or Go Rentals about renting you a Model 3 and see what you can get if you invest in some more money. Though I suspect you're probably a bit late at booking a rental EV this summer. They're probably quite popular.
I mean, keeping in mind that a 62 kilowatt hour Leaf would go as far as a Model Y, if not further. So it depends on the Leaf.
There's not that many 62 kilowatt Leafs in New Zealand in the context.
no, fair enough. No, just
Yeah.
just don't tar all leaf with ZDO with the ZDO brake.
Okay, we'll say 30 kilowatt and under lease. How does that sound?
Thank you.
Robert Nichols says, as Margaret Baker said, we need to try and get an early start to avoid congestion at charges. We also have the luxury of a larger battery, so we try and pick up an earlier stop and get an early charge in. This is what I'm saying. If that charge is busy, we have the option then to kick on to see if the next one may be available. The only downside of this is at some point you have to charge. We do, and have left a charger early so the next person can get charging and keep going with a view to get a further charge later. I think that works better with, like if I leave Auckland, I probably generally want a pee and a coffee by T-Row anyway. Not necessarily, maybe not Taupo. So that's those ones there. Now let's run through the comments on the actual live stream here. Where are we? Here we go. Rukshan De Silva says, 100% agree on this. The old Leaf is a great city car, but long distance, no way. Agree. Please, I'm not hating on Leafs. I love Leafs. We had a Leaf until very recently. They are great cars. I just think that the time for older Leafs, can we just call it the first generation Leaf? Is that the safe way to do it?
Yeah.
For first generation Leafs, for doing long road trips during busy periods, it's fine. Out time of busy periods, go for it. I loved seeing Adam Middlebob at Mangaweka putting ice down onto his battery, driving back from Christchurch in his low range Leaf, and he'd argue a bit high range Leaf, but not this time of year. Andrew says, but us Outlander PHEV drivers want our 8 kilowatt hour charge just like anyone else. at 80 cents a kilowatt, do you really?
Yeah, but what were they paying before? Probably more than 80 cents kilowatt hour.
That's true. That's true.
With the time rates.
Ned says, hey, my Leaf will give an MG and even your BYD a run for its money regarding range. I'm guessing he's got a 62 kilowatt?
He does, yeah.
He does. Good. We've refined that comment now, and I apologise to anyone who was confused, to Generation 1 Leafs. Though someone will tell me, there's a Generation 1 Leaf with a retrofitted 62 kilowatt battery or something. Well, I can't deal with everything.
I think at the end of the day, because I mean, not everyone can afford a long range EV. So I mean, if you've got a short range Leaf, get out there, just be aware of your range and be fair to people and just
stay close to home.
Roads. They
built those roads. It's not just about. I'm not talking about them getting in the way. I'm talking about them having a bad experience.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want people who have those cars to just go, I'm never doing that again. Which they will. I mean, if you've got a Leaf that has to be charged basically once an hour, and you've got to wait an hour to charge for half an hour once an hour, you're not going to have a great day.
No. I'd much rather sit behind someone with a ZDO Leaf who needs 93% charging at 30 kilowatt than a Audi e-tron on 1% while they go and have dinner to go to 95.
I think
to get from Auckland to Whanganui.
Well, they should have stopped at bloody Kaiwaka, shouldn't they? Ross says, going through towns with single 50 kilowatt chargers, check to see if they're available. You might need to stop a town early or later than planned. I love that comment. That's my theory as well. Andrew Petrie says, hard to not DC charge out of Nelson if going anywhere else in the island. Depends on what you're driving, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, probably isn't. Well, hang on. Hard to not DC charge out of Nelson. This is our point, Andrew. If you're passing through Nelson, yes. If you're going out of Nelson, leaving Nelson, why aren't you leaving it 100% from home or your hotel or wherever?
He must be leaving it 100%, but he's talking about Murchison or Culverton, heading to Christchurch kind of direction or down to Greymouth. You're going to be stuck at one of those two.
Yeah, exactly. Ned says, many places I would never have stopped if it wasn't for charging. quite fun walking around small weirdo towns for 30 minutes. Yeah, I guess every EV driver who's done a long trip in the North Island has gone and taken photos of the Mangaweka township and that kind of stuff they wouldn't have bothered with anyway.
I had a beer in the Puterino pub on a Friday night with a bunch of locals who looked a bit scary at first, and then were really friendly, and that was one of the funnest experiences I've had on an EV road trip. Stopping in the enjoying things.
Ned says, and when in doubt, slow down 10 kilometers an hour and get heaps more range. Very good point. Don't be tempted by, unless you've got a really good range EV, don't be tempted by the Waikato Expressway. The Waikato Expressway, going from 100 to 110, you can drink a heck of a lot of power. Yes.
And you can also sit in, as I know from driving Hulk at 90 while towing, because that's the law, you can sit in that left lane and you don't upset anyone. You're doing 90, it's no problem at all.
Yeah. In the EP9 with its 90 kilowatt hour battery, I'll be doing 110. even if it does have the aerodynamics of 100. What's that?
The GPS 110 too, so 100.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, and then a couple on for the top, just for that buffer. Lance says, I'm hiring a Leaf over Christmas, and they were going to charge me $10 a day for each cable, so I'm taking my own cables. Interesting. Ned says, I'm paying $5 a day extra to charge at Upper Hutt Kiwi Holiday Park on my current tow bar install trip I'm doing for TTK. Wish I had bought my 16 amp instead of a little 8-1 one though.
Bring all your cables. That's a good tip. If you've got them, bring them.
Bring all your cables. Don't forget a Type 2. If you've got a little Leaf or something lower range, definitely invest in the Blue Commando plug. It does make a big difference, I think. CJ says, 3/4 of an hour out of town, we have a 50 kilowatt charger in Matawai from Gisborne. We use about 20% battery power and always stop there and top up to 100, able to get to Hamilton from there and get there and good coffee. What kind of car are you driving, CJ? That'd be an interesting thing to add to that. Vern says, hi, does anyone know the wattage of the vehicle to load on the EP9? Also, which of the 3 models has the vehicle load option? The 2 upper models it's not really a vehicle to load option. It's just like a lot of premium vehicles now, it's just a 220 volt outlet, 150 watt. I wouldn't call it a full vehicle to load option. It is on a little pop-out thing on the back of the center console, so accessible from the rear seats. It's designed for charging laptops, that kind of stuff. Not a lot more than that. I think about 150 watt at 220 volts. I think I've translated that right. And I found that out because I pushed it today while I was sitting in the back trying to work out how all the seats worked. Ned says, charging at PlugShare should have a graph of how busy it is at what times, like what Google has for businesses. Now, Ned, that is an interesting one. And I have actually asked for that data for, I guess, what you call a charging heat map. The problem being with that is that they've got to be cautious about giving it away because charging data at the moment is actually very commercially sensitive. There's a lot of companies bidding for various government contracts, various opportunities to put charging in at various locations. And of course, that kind of data is very important to working out what you're willing to pay or what you're willing to do at each location. So I think you'll find the companies are a little bit reluctant to hand out that data at the moment. PlugShare maybe, but PlugShare, the data, of course, is only really self-opt-in. So it doesn't really tell you that much. Trish says, I've shared the 10 points of public charging etiquette on my group, as many of our members are newbies, and our members share our experiences with regards to range, charging points, etc., which is valuable info. Everyone is learning. My tip to your community, Trisha, is the car will make it, the BYD will make it from Auckland to Taupo, which is, I guess, the big hop for a lot of people, but not massively and not with much load on board. It's uphill. It'll make it really easy coming back. I guess that's something people need to add in. Keep an eye on elevation. If you've got to go up a hill, you're going to kick yourself later. Taupo to Auckland is easy. Auckland to Taupo is not that easy because you're going to get over, I think, about a 750 metre rise on your way there, coming slightly to the north of Taupo. Steve?
Yeah, it sounds better. I'm not sure
Yeah.
exactly, but yeah, it's definitely
Yes.
yeah.
I only learned that when driving the BYD because, of course, it has the elevation on the screen. Handy.
I've learned that everywhere we go, coming home, the last bit is the hardest. It doesn't matter what direction we go from Taupo. Coming home is the hardest bit, so make sure you have plenty for that.
Carl says, I'm about to do a road trip with our family, 2-year-old and 3-month-old in a Leaf. Pray for me. Carl says, it is a 40 kilowatt hour. You'll be fine on the 40, Carl. We're talking about the first gen stuff. The 40's fine. I really needed to deal with that, correcting that comment earlier on, and I do apologise for that. The 40 kilowatts and later, perfectly fine. Potentially just watch the number of times you DC charge in a day because they are not actively cooled. And you might find your charging speeds are a bit slow and a bit toasty towards the end on a hot summer's day.
Yeah, with the 40s, we tell people to just once you get over probably 500-600k journeys, then you need to factor in battery temperature, which is going to slow your charging down. Things like having 5-minute non-charging breaks before and after charging can actually make a big difference. It's amazing how well you can actually manage the temperature of a battery if you start it early on in the piece. Once the battery's hot, it's not much you can do then. Maybe put a bit of ice on, like add a metamod did. I haven't tried that and how effective that is. But no, managing it early on and leaving full, like you said, taking advantage of AC chargers that you're not going to ramp on the heat with those, and just having a little peaks between, you don't have that battery consumption and then heat generation. So.
Yeah. Triple X18 online says free girls in your city.
There you go. Do they like electric cars?
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, get this important. Rukshan says, is anyone doing 110 on the highway? No, everyone's doing 120. Just be clear here. Everyone's doing 120. It's like the toll road north of Auckland, even though that's still only 100. Everyone's doing 120. CJ says BYD. So I'm going to go back. What was it you're saying? 3/4 an hour. 3/4 and an hour out of town. You're using quite a lot of charge there for that first 3/4 an hour there, CJ. But I guess there's a hill. Yeah. Napier to Taupio, pretty big elevation too. Definitely tune up more electrons going in that direction. Luckily, the speed limit on that road is really slow, which helps, weirdly. And of course, there are a couple of charges on there, but I suspect they will be some very busy charges this season.
I've
says,
always had, the desert road from Turangi to Waiuru, Tokoroa to Taupo, Napier, I guess, to the middle on the way to Taupo. There's certain roads that you always have you always have 20% more than you want, on those roads, because they can get stupidly high in consumption at certain times.
Oh, the Napier-Taupo road on the way up is so steep, it will... Generation 1 Outlanders struggle.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone's ever done this, but if you've got a load on board and you leave Napier, by the time you're getting into some of the bigger climbs, you've exhausted your battery, and unless you set it on... I think you're best off to leave it on range save and use a lot of gas early out, because once you get to some of those bigger hills, they run out of battery. And they can't generate enough power with the motor to keep up with the power demand from the wheels. And so they will restrict themselves, and you'll drop down sometimes to 60 kilometers an hour going up some of those hills. So just be aware of that. It's a little hot tip there for Outlander drivers if you're carrying the family from Napier up to Taupo, is to, when you're getting through, just watch your battery and sometimes hit the battery save function just to top it up a little bit to give yourself some boost for getting up those hills. Lance
it's a
says
punishing road either way. There's two massive peaks. You basically go up a massive peak, then down, and then up another one, and down. It's a pretty intense road for elevation changes.
Yeah. Lance says, just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Merry
And
Christmas,
CJ says uphill. Yeah, must be one heck of an uphill. Right, I think we have been here long enough. Thank you for everyone for listening to our rants tonight. Now I'm going to try and put together a little bit of a quick live stream next week, just from the end of the trip. It'll be a very quick one, just to tell you guys how we went. I'm also looking at whether there's any interest in us live streaming parts of the trip. So potentially what we might do is actually slap a camera on the dashboard and live stream, say, the ferry through to Kaikoura from the EP9. But also we'll put up a tracker so people can see where we are on the trip. And if you want to pop out to where we are and wave us down or say hello to Charger, please do. At this stage, Steve, I think we will be swinging by Taupo, unless... Did you say that you've seen there's a new Charger at the Z station in Turingi?
Yeah, they've swapped it out. So I think it's currently limited to 50 kilowatt, but it's a 75. No, I don't know. It might have changed now. Excuse me. I think in November, the something or other, they were changing it to 75 kilowatt. So it's a dual unit. It's I don't know what brand it is, but it's basically it's on the screen. It says 75 kilowatt, but it seems to be 50. But yeah, I think it's probably right. Yeah. But yeah,
keep an eye on that, because
just plucked it out and put a different one in.
Because if I follow my own rules and charge early, then I may be able to skip Taupo, because as much as I love Taupo, it's a long way into town and back out again.
How can you skip such a beautiful place? What about Drive EV? You have to stop there.
Well, I'm going on Sunday, so Drive EV is closed.
Oh well, fair enough then.
Yeah,
fair enough. Uncommitted staff. What can you do?
But if we do come through Taupo, I'm sure you and Ned will probably shoot down to check out the EP9. So
yeah, absolutely, yep.
Yeah, enjoy the large seats.
We can do the Ned test. Do you reckon Ned will fit in there?
Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah,
easy.
Yeah.
The one we have, unfortunately, doesn't have the massage seats. So
probably for the better. You might find that myself, Jay, and Ned will
stand in the back Tesla.
Loiter in the back and
Something waving.
Yeah, you have it all back.
Yeah. Right, we are ending now, or just about to end. So we bring the Tow Bar King back in quickly. I'll quickly fire through these last few comments. Carl says, I'll wait 5 minutes before and after charging, leave it 100% and I'll drive sensibly. Minimise the regen, I've been told, is a good move. Don't use the E pedal and leave it in D. Margaret says, we used to have to stop on 16M campground sockets for the cafe up top between Napier and Taupo. Rukshan says, if you're stopping in Hamilton, I'd be keen to check that out. I'm not, but I think you'll find your LDV dealer in Hamilton's got one if you want to go and have a look at one. And Ned says, challenge accepted. Ned test sounds good. Okie dokie.
A bigger man than you, Ned. You're too small.
Well, if you jump on the video on the EVs and Beyond YouTube channel, you can see me, a rather large 6 foot and very wide man, in the massage seats in the back of the upspeak model, jiggling about on a bumpy South Auckland road. So go check that if you like a little bit of man jiggle. And
who doesn't?
What did you just come into, Mark?
I don't know. A different one.
Yeah. Look, and so on that bombshell, we will end. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Thank you very much, Steve from Drive EV, and Mark, the Tesla Tow Bar King. We'll catch everyone again for a very short live stream next Tuesday.
Thank you.